Today we're looking at the loneliness crisis, okay? The question is this: why are 40% of Americans lonely despite being more connected than ever? And why is this isolation making certain companies incredibly wealthy? Okay? We've done extensive research and discovered that modern loneliness isn't a natural phenomenon. This is systematic isolation designed to create profitable dependency. And the same industries causing the loneliness are selling you the cure. Most people think loneliness is just a personal problem. You're depressed, you don't put yourself out there enough, you need to try harder to make friends, but that's not what this is about. This is about the deliberate construction of a loneliness economy, where human isolation has become the foundation of massive corporate profits. We're witnessing the monetization of one of humanity's most fundamental needs: connection. Let me tell you what the research reveals. The US Surgeon General declared loneliness a public health epidemic, equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. But while health officials treat this as a medical crisis, the corporate world has recognized it as a gold mine. LRP's latest study shows 40% of adults over 45 are lonely, up from 35% in 2010. For people aged 30-44, it's even worse. Harvard found that 29% of people in this age range are frequently or always lonely. But here's what's really happening. This isn't accidental social decay. This is engineered social destruction, with calculated corporate capture of the resulting market. The same forces that dissolve traditional community structures are now selling you digital substitutes. The same companies that isolated you are offering to reconnect you for a monthly fee. The loneliness economy is estimated to be worth over $800 billion annually, when you factor in all the industries that profit from isolation. Dating apps, social media platforms, co-living spaces, AI companions, wellness apps, virtual reality, streaming services, food delivery, remote work technology. Every sector that promises to solve loneliness while systematically creating more of it. Let's start with how this system actually works. Social media platforms don't make money from happy, connected people. They make money from people who feel inadequate, isolated, and constantly seeking validation. They never quite receive. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. They're not connection platforms. They're loneliness amplification systems designed to create just enough social interaction to keep you engaged while ensuring you never feel truly satisfied. The research proves this. Oregon State University studied over 1,500 adults and found that people in the top 25% of social media usage were more than twice as likely to experience loneliness. But the platforms know this. They've optimized their algorithms not to reduce loneliness, but to monetize it. Every scroll is a small prayer for connection. And every click generates revenue for companies that profit from your social starvation. Dating apps are even more explicit about this. Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, they don't make money when you find lasting relationships. They make money when you stay on the platform, continuously searching, continuously paying for premium features that promise better matches you'll never quite find. A 2023 study found that 64% of dating app users felt lonelier after extended use. But loneliness is the business model. These companies are literally selling hope while engineering disappointment. The apps use sophisticated psychological manipulation to keep you trapped in cycles of artificial validation. They provide intermittent reinforcement schedules, occasional matches and likes that trigger dopamine release, while ensuring you never receive enough genuine connection to leave the platform. You're not their customer finding love, you're their product generating subscription revenue. And now we have AI companions. Apps like Replica and devices like the Friend Pendant are selling artificial relationships to people starved of human connection. This market is projected to reach $140 billion by 2030. These aren't technological innovations. They're digital drug dealers selling synthetic intimacy to people whose real social connections have been systematically destroyed. The companies marketing these AI companions explicitly target lonely people with promises of friends who always listen and companions who never judge. But what they're really selling is the complete replacement of human relationships with corporate-controlled substitutes. You're not paying for a friend, you're paying for the ongoing rental of artificial empathy designed to keep you subscribed rather than seeking real human connection. But the loneliness industry extends far beyond technology. Urban planning and economic policies have systematically destroyed what sociologists call third places, the community spaces between home and work where natural social connections form. Libraries, churches, community centers, neighborhood bars, local clubs, these spaces have been defunded, demolished, or replaced with commercial alternatives that charge admission for what used to be free. This wasn't accidental. When you eliminate free social spaces, People must pay for connection. Co-living companies now charge premium rents for what used to be natural roommate arrangements. WeWork charged hundreds of dollars for community membership in shared workspaces. SoulCycle markets expensive group fitness as finding your tribe. Every natural human social formation has been commodified and sold back to people as a premium experience. The workplace has been restructured to maximize isolation. Remote work, gig economy jobs, open office plans that actually reduce meaningful social interaction. These arrangements serve corporate efficiency while destroying the social bonds that used to form naturally through shared labor. Then companies sell you productivity apps, virtual team building exercises, and digital wellness programs to address the isolation they created. Even entertainment has been weaponized for loneliness production. Streaming services optimize for binge-watching behaviors that keep people isolated at home rather than engaging in social activities. Netflix's algorithms are designed to prevent you from finishing series too quickly, keeping you subscribed and socially withdrawn. The company's former executives explicitly stated that their biggest competitor isn't other streaming services, it's sleep and social interaction. The psychological mechanisms are sophisticated. Lonely people are high-value customers because they spend more time online, subscribe to more services, and are more susceptible to emotional marketing. They're seeking connection, validation, and belonging through consumption rather than human relationships. This makes them ideal targets for subscription-based business models that promise ongoing emotional fulfillment through digital products. The research shows that chronic loneliness weakens immune systems, increases cardiovascular disease, accelerates cognitive decline, and raises mortality rates comparable to obesity and smoking. But instead of addressing the social and economic conditions creating this isolation, the healthcare industry has medicalized loneliness as individual pathology requiring pharmaceutical and therapeutic interventions that generate ongoing revenue. Mental health has become a trillion-dollar industry that treats loneliness symptoms while ignoring systemic causes. Therapy apps, wellness platforms, meditation subscriptions, they're selling individual solutions to collective problems. You're not lonely because you have a mental health disorder. You're lonely because the social and economic structures that historically provided community have been dismantled and monetized. Here's how the loneliness industrial complex actually operates. First, economic and urban planning policies destroy traditional community structures. People are forced into suburban isolation, car-dependent lifestyles, and economic arrangements that scatter families and prevent stable local relationships. Then technology companies offer digital alternatives that simulate connection while preventing genuine social bonding. The result is a population of socially starved individuals who turn to consumption for the emotional fulfillment they can't find in human relationships. Dating apps for romantic connection. Social media for social validation. Streaming services for emotional engagement. Food delivery to avoid public social spaces. AI companions for intimacy. Every human social need has been identified, commodified, and sold as a subscription service. But this system requires continuous loneliness to maintain profitability. If people form stable, satisfying human relationships, they would consume fewer digital substitutes. So the platforms are designed to provide just enough social stimulation to keep you engaged while ensuring you never feel truly connected. They're digital methadone clinics for social addiction. The economic incentives are perverse. Companies profit from your isolation, so they have no motivation to actually solve loneliness. In fact, solving loneliness would destroy their business models. Facebook makes more money from lonely, insecure users who scroll constantly seeking validation than from people with rich offline social lives. Dating apps make more money from chronic users than from people who quickly find lasting relationships. Even the solutions being offered perpetuate the problem. Co-living spaces charge $2,000 plus for shared housing that used to happen naturally. Professional cuddling services charge $80/hour for physical intimacy that used to be freely available through human relationships. Rent-a-friend services in Japan charge fees for social companionship that used to emerge organically through community participation. This commodification of connection creates artificial scarcity around what should be abundant human social resources. When friendship becomes a service you purchase, family becomes content you consume, and intimacy becomes an app you subscribe to, you're no longer a social being. You're a customer in the loneliness marketplace. The COVID pandemic accelerated these trends by normalizing social isolation and digital-first interaction. Companies use public health justifications to push remote work, online education, virtual social events, and digital service delivery that reduced human contact while increasing platform dependency. Many of these temporary arrangements became permanent, further entrenching the loneliness economy. The psychological effects compound over time. People who rely on digital substitutes for social connection gradually lose the skills necessary for authentic human relationships. They become socially anxious, emotionally dependent on algorithmic validation, and incapable of tolerating the uncertainty and complexity of real human interaction. This creates permanent customers for artificial social products. Young people are particularly vulnerable. Generation Z reports the highest loneliness rates in history, despite being digital natives. They've been raised on social media platforms designed to simulate friendship while preventing genuine connection. Many have never experienced authentic community formation and don't understand what they're missing. They accept digital substitutes as normal because they've never known the alternative. The business model is expanding globally. In countries like Japan and South Korea, where traditional social structures have collapsed under economic pressure, the loneliness economy has become a dominant economic sector. Professional listeners, rental families, AI companions, these aren't niche services but mainstream industries serving populations that have been systematically isolated by economic and technological changes. But here's what's particularly insidious. The loneliness industry markets itself as providing solutions to social problems while actively perpetuating those problems. Dating apps claim to help you find love while optimizing for user retention rather than relationship success. Social media platforms promise connection while engineering social comparison and artificial scarcity of approval. AI companies promise companionship while replacing human relationships with corporate-controlled alternatives. The research shows that people who use these services often report feeling more isolated afterward, not less. But by then, they're trapped in subscription cycles and psychological dependency that make leaving difficult. They've invested emotional energy, financial resources, and social identity in digital platforms that promise eventual fulfillment while delivering ongoing frustration. The economic scale is staggering. Americans spend over $150 billion annually on dating apps, social media advertising, streaming services, and digital wellness products, seeking social and emotional fulfillment. They're not receiving from human relationships. This doesn't include the indirect costs of loneliness-related healthcare, productivity losses, and social dysfunction that further enrich healthcare and pharmaceutical industries. The loneliness industrial complex has created a feedback loop where social isolation drives consumption, which generates profits that fund further social isolation. Urban development prioritizes commercial spaces over community spaces. Technology development prioritizes user engagement over social well-being. Economic policies prioritize individual consumer spending over collective social investment. But perhaps most importantly, the loneliness industry has successfully convinced isolated people that their isolation is normal, natural, and best addressed through individual consumption, rather than collective social change. You're not lonely because economic and technological systems have destroyed community. You're lonely because you haven't found the right app, paid for the right service, or bought the right product to fix your personal social deficits. This victim-blaming ideology prevents people from understanding that loneliness is a systemic problem requiring collective solutions. Instead of demanding policies that rebuild community infrastructure, regulate social media platforms, or prioritize social well-being over corporate profits, isolated individuals seek personal market-based solutions that enrich the companies causing their isolation. The loneliness industrial complex represents the final stage of capitalist social organization, where even the most basic human needs for connection and belonging have been commodified and sold back to people as premium experiences. We've created a society where friendship is a subscription service, family is content you consume, and love is an algorithm you pay to optimize. And because this system generates enormous profits while creating permanent customer dependency, it will continue expanding until human social bonds are completely replaced by corporate-mediated digital substitutes. We're not just lonely, we're being systematically lonified for profit. The companies profiting from isolation don't want you to solve loneliness. They want you to remain just lonely enough to keep paying for artificial solutions that never quite satisfy your social needs. That's the business model. Chronic social starvation with subscription-based synthetic nutrition. Think about the deeper implications here. We're witnessing the creation of a society where genuine human relationships are being systematically replaced by algorithmic substitutes designed to extract revenue from our social needs. This isn't just market expansion into new sectors. This is the commodification of human nature itself. The loneliness industrial complex has created what researchers call learned social helplessness. People become convinced they're incapable of forming authentic relationships and must rely on technological intermediaries to experience any form of connection. This psychological dependency ensures permanent customer retention while preventing the development of natural social skills that might make people less dependent on digital platforms. The end goal isn't just profit, it's total social capture. A population of isolated individuals who conduct all their relationships through corporate-controlled channels that can monitor, influence, and monetize every human interaction. We're not heading toward a lonely future. We're being herded into one. Does that make sense, guys? Okay?